Who Dey, and I am just excited.
I'm excited to sit here. Y'all can't see all my Saints fans.
He showed with a Hall of Fame quarterback that he can get back to when he was a number 4 overall pick.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is Commissioner Cooper, and it's time for TSS Fantasy.
Yeah.
So I was waiting on it. Let's go. We got a great.
Real quick, I just want to say this. I talked to Fred today, and we were supposed to do a secretive. He was supposed to hop on, and this mofo still couldn't get on. I'm over here. I'm like sad. I'm like, man, Fred was gonna hop on, and he blew it again.
Sounds like a fitting Freddie story, that's for sure. All right, well, let's get things started tonight. We got a great show ahead for you tonight. We're going to be talking the AFC returning champions, the Chiefs, against another great playoff team, the LA Chargers. So we got our KC guest just came right on time.
No.
Gotta love how that works.
No.
All right, let's go around. Let's do our introductions first. First, we'll go to we got a new co-host in tonight, join the TSS family. Let's welcome in Tip Major. Welcome in, my brother.
Yo, what up, man? I'm excited to be here. I'm happy that I get to be sandwiched in between Chargers and Chiefs fans. I'm a Raiders fan, so we're gonna be talking a lot of smack tonight. I can feel it. I can feel it.
Little AFC West love going around tonight. Gotta love that. All right, let's welcome in our co-host, Justin Jesus Herrera.
Oh, man, I'm completely unbiased with this one, except for the Chiefs. I hate the Chiefs. 49ers fan right here, so I feel the pain of the Chiefs. And I'm just going to say this. I'm ready to let these two Goliaths go at it. The Chargers and the Chiefs, Herbert, Mahomes. I'm ready for all the good talking points.
All right, well, I got to introduce our next guy because, man, I feel like he's been gotten beaten up like ever since he came on because he came in late. Philip, welcome in, my brother. Appreciate you stopping by tonight.
Mr. Cooper, Commissioner. Man, it's good to see you again, man. Last time that me and you made a contact, it was on the episode of the Chiefs Focus. I was actually on the comment side, but you had JP, Caleb, and our other guy on. But it was great to be here, and of course, everybody wants to beat up on the Chiefs because everybody wants to be like us. Just like even after y'all beat us in the Super Bowl, we still
not anymore.
No. Don't talk. Let me finish. Every time y'all want to talk about us, y'all still can't get us out of your heads because y'all still want to be like us. And you know what? A Super Bowl, we won 3 Super Bowls. It ain't nothing to us. Tom Brady's won multiple, so we're just right there at that level. So it's just nothing to us. Just like Bane, it is nothing to me but blinding. Who cares, dude? That was in the past. What have you done for me lately is what we're talking about in this league. And I haven't talked about football like that, so I don't mean to take too much time. Just got done doing some direct support work and stuff. Have autism, and I do my disability work outside of the football stuff. So I'm glad to be here and have a little friendly AFC type of West type of talk. So.
Well, welcome in. We appreciate you joining us tonight. I mean, like you said, it's just kind of like wrestling. Like if you're a bad guy, you want to be booed, and you know what I mean. Like you're the bad guy. Good, come on, bring it. Like I feel you, man. I'm with you on that. All right, let's go. I mean, it's our man. I mean, this is like almost like NFL royalty in the house. Isaac, I don't want to Lowenkron if I'm saying that. Lowenkron, if I'm saying that correctly.
Let's be honest, it doesn't matter. People call me so many different things. Not many of them can be repeated over the airwaves, but Lowenkron is fine. Thank you so much for having me. And here we are, just 5 weeks away from the Hall of Fame game with the Chargers, which the Chargers are in this year against the Lions. And I'm glad to be talking about the AFC West because I think an argument can be made that it's the best division in the NFL. It was one of just 2 divisions that had 3 playoff teams last year. The other, of course, being the NFC North, but right beside them was the AFC West.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because there's always that debate every year. What's that best division? And man, the AFC West certainly can make a good case for it right now. That is for sure. Stacked top to bottom. All right, before we get started tonight, let's pay those bills real quick. If you're watching on YouTube, do us a solid, hit like, give us a comment. If you got any questions, throw them in there. Hit the notification bell. Little things stopping you from doing it. Big things popping for us when you do. We appreciate that. Also, look at Ultra GM. Go ahead and take a look at them. You're going to use the promo code TSS to sign up. It's a great mix of fantasy. And if you like playing Madden on franchise mode, it's the exact mix. We're going to bring, like I said, as the summer tour rolls on, we're going to bring some guests in to talk a little bit more about that, but definitely something to check out. If you're looking for some fantasy bling, however, look no further than Pro M Belts. They got great belts for all your fantasy champions, so make sure you check that out. And Justin, you want to talk about Fast Draft app for a sec?
Yeah, so guys, everybody knows Underdog. Everybody knows DraftKings. There's a brand new app out there called the Fast Draft app. It's a very intuitive app. It gives you certain things like rostership, stack percentages, everything when you're drafting. It's a great little we have a great deal with them right now where if you use the code TSS, you get $50 up to $50 matched. But also we have an amazing tournament out there right now called the Rabbit, and it is Fast Draft Friday out there, which means if you put $20 towards the entry in the Rabbit, which grand prize is $10,000, everybody. So $20 in for that entry. They will match that entry. So you get 2 entries for the price of 1 today, and it's only today, Fast Draft Friday. So go sign up with TSS Fantasy, get your $50 matched, and then put 20 of that into the Rabbit tournament and get another entry in, and go get yourself 10 grand, because who doesn't want 10 grand? Fast Draft.
Absolutely. Go check the boys out at Fast Draft. I do like it the other way, though. Every time you deposit 50, we get 50. I kind of like the way you said that. But anyway, how can I argue that? All right. We had a lot to talk about, a lot of NFL to talk about. And we went through a bit of an off-season period with free agency and the draft and all that good stuff. So let's kick back, relax. Let's go with the Summer Rewind. In case you didn't know, that's that old school Miami bass sound. You gotta love that. All right, let's get things started off tonight. We're going to talk, of course, first, we're going to go free agency. Isaac, we'll start with you first. I know we've had some losses with Joey Bosa. Did re-sign Khalil Mack, however, and of course, re-signed. I was about to say you signed him. I wrote my notes wrong. I thought I remembered him, though. I moved so apart. But anyway, had some stuff going on in the offseason. So let's talk about that. First, give me like an overall grade you feel in the free agency part of it, and expand on it. Talk about the guys that you like or in fact didn't like.
It's pretty much the same grade that I would give their draft, and that's sneaky good. I think that they, via both free agency and the draft, address the major holes that I feel that they had on their team, on the offensive line, at running back. I think they were able to mitigate whatever losses they had on defense. I think the biggest question mark for me going into the season is at the wide receiver, tight end position groups. I think that has not been proven yet. For all I know, it'll turn out to be a consistent and dependable part of the team, but I just think we'll have to see. Everywhere else, I think they're pretty good. I love starting with the signing of Mekhi Becton on the offensive line. You know, here's a guy who started out as a tackle and then got moved, to right guard, and was part of a Super Bowl champion with the Eagles last year. They got him for 2 years and $20 million, and here's a guy who's 6'7", 363. Because if you look back to the playoff game against Houston, where a very positive turnaround regular season kind of got wiped out in one afternoon. One of the biggest issues there was pass protection in that game. Their top two running backs from last season have departed in J.K. Dobbins, who actually had a fantastic season, as well as Gus Edwards. And in addition to drafting, who I'm sure we'll talk about, Omarion Hampton, they bring in Najee Harris from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And here's a guy who's been a 1,000-yard rusher all 4 years that he's been in the league. I felt, defensively, that was obviously the strength of last year's team. In addition to Justin Herbert, I didn't think they needed to do too many drastic things there. I think, as you mentioned, they lost Joey Bosa to free agency with the Buffalo Bills, which we could kind of see coming. But I think kind of under the radar, they lost a couple of really good interior defensive linemen in free agency, and Poona Ford, who had a fabulous year, and they got tremendous value out of him last season, as well as Morgan Fox, who had been a key part of their interior defensive line for the last couple of years. And they signed, veteran guys like Deshaun Hand and Naquan Jones, who had the most sacks of his career last year with the Arizona Cardinals. And, they were able to fortify their secondary with some more veteran corners like Benjamin St-Juste, which kind of puts me in the mood for an au jus, which is the kind of dip you get in a roast beef sandwich at Philippe's here in Los Angeles, but that's another story. And Dante Jackson as well at another cornerback spot. So I think generally under the radar, they did quite well.
I just snuck in an au jus comment in there. Gotta love that, bro. Absolutely. Now you know you're professional when you can throw that in there. All right, Phil, let's go to you. Give me a grade on your offseason. Taking a look at it as far as free agency goes. Not a ton of movement either way. I mean, if you go the AFC Championship, go to the Super Bowl multiple years in a row, I can understand why you do that. But give me a grade on the free agency aspect of the Chiefs this offseason.
Well, I would say it like this. I give our free agency period, let's say, B plus grade because, of course, you guys all know what happened in the Super Bowl. And to be honest, let me just put it to you like this. If we had taken care of the offensive tackle, left tackle situation since over the last 2 years and now have Mahomes run for his life every time he goes to that side. And if Rashee Rice never got hurt, then we would have a different story, especially when you saw how Xavier Worthy came out last season. And then also if they utilize Kareem Hunt a little more, even though he's not the same Kareem Hunt that we saw before, especially giving Pacheco time to get back to being the Pacheco that he once was before the injury against the Bengals in week 2 last season. Overall, we addressed the offensive tackle position first through the signing of Jalen Moore. At first, I didn't like the move from the standpoint of how much we were paying him because really he's being paid as the most expensive swing tackle in the league because we added probably my favorite offensive tackle from this draft class, Josh Simmons, who to me reminds me a lot of Trent Williams, who that was my comparison of him before Jason Kelce said it on the podcast yesterday. And that's why I like that move. But I also like the Christian Fulton move because the Fulton move reminds me so much of the Janoris Jenkins move. Janoris Jenkins started off a little ruggish in his career, first 4 years with the Rams before he reconnected with Spags with the Giants, and you saw the rest was history with Jack Rabbit, and that's what Fulton reminds me of. And now you also drafted the kid out of Cal, Noah Williams, who's a pick artist who kind of reminds me of Trayvon Diggs. To add him with McDuffie, and then also having Jaden Hicks to move up and elevate in Justin Reed's role at the strong safety role, and bringing back Mike Edwards. I like those moves there. It's just those little moves right there that you need to take in order for us to get back to where we need to go. Because it's like what Ray Lewis said when they lost to the Patriots off of that Billy Cundiff field goal in the AFC Championship in 2011. Hey, y'all, we know what we did wrong. We know what we need to do to get back, and that's just the mindset the Chiefs are. And Mahomes just let the fire out on Brett Beach right after the Super Bowl. Get this shit right. And he did it this offseason. And we ain't worried about what nobody else says. We are the villains, and hey, and it's like what Tom Brady said, if there's somebody who I want to see surpass me, it's Mahomes, number 15, who's on my wall. So that's all I got to say about that. And we're just ready for any challengers again. And Eagles Nation, we're coming for blood.
He's talking straight to the Eagles. We going right. We skipping 20.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
We know how to handle everybody else. The Eagles, we're like when we see y'all, we're going for blood. just like
Yeah.
y'all got the blood 2 years ago against us.
Yeah, I think they just came out with a good game plan against you guys, quite frankly.
yeah.
in the Super Bowl. I mean, they knew the weaknesses and they certainly attacked them. All right, let's go to the draft. Isaac, back to you. Let's grade this draft. I know everyone wants to talk about Marion Hampton. I mean, this is a fantasy show, so I know we're all interested to hear about that. But, who else? There's someone else that I like who you drafted. It's just because his dad played for America's team, the Miami Dolphins, Oronde Gadsden. I mean, I'm a little excited about him too, but go ahead, talk about your draft, grade it for me, and tell me what you like and didn't like.
I think it's the same thing, sneaky good. And, I might as well start with Oronde Gadsden because from a draft standpoint, I think that's projected to fill a need that the Chargers have as well as a down-the-field vertical threat type tight end that they didn't really have last year. I mean, obviously in the division, you've got Travis Kelce, and obviously the Raiders have that type of caliber of tight end filling that need with Brock Bowers. But I was a fan of Oronde Gadsden the second's father, just like you, when he played for the Miami Dolphins. And this one's out of Syracuse. He had 7 touchdown receptions last year. And last year, the Chargers' top receiving tight end was Will Dissly, who was really penciled in as their number 2 tight end going into the season, more of a blocking tight end, and he wound up having a career year when it came to reception and receiving production. So if Oronde Gadsden can blossom, particularly as a 5th-round pick, that would certainly be fabulous for the Chargers. But getting back to who you led with, that's the guy who everyone is thrilled and excited about, Omarion Hampton. Who was the second running back taken behind Ashton Genty of the Raiders, and he was still available, Omarion Hampton was, as the second running back on the board at number 22 overall. From a fantasy football and a stats standpoint, it's kind of hard to project what his role is going to be, at least at the outset of his rookie season, because he's going to be teamed with a veteran running back in Najee Harris. So I'm not sure what the breakdown of his carries compared to Harris's are going to be at the start of the season and throughout the season. But at the very least, it gives the Chargers hopefully a good 1-2 running dynamic that they had last year when their number 2 running back, Gus Edwards, was healthy. J.K. Dobbins had a fabulous year. The best year of his career. He rushed for over 900 yards. He had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, but Gus Edwards, who was going to be the number 2 punch as a running back, was not consistently healthy last year. So if Harris and Hampton can both be healthy, that's going to give the Chargers the sort of 1-2 running back punch that they wanted. And they hope they hit a home run at the wide receiver position in the second round for a second straight year because, we're only a 1-hour show here, but that wouldn't be enough time for me to say all the glowing things I could say about the kind of year that Ladd McConkey had last year. And I don't know if you can expect Trey Harris, this year's second-round pick, to put up, rookie historic numbers in the franchise history the way that Ladd did last year, but he's a different type of receiver. I mean, he's an outside receiver when Ladd was a slot receiver, and that was a definite need for the Chargers. Their 3rd-round pick, Jamari Caldwell, a defensive tackle out of Oregon. He's a guy that, as I mentioned, you lose Poona Ford and Morgan Fox to free agency. He can be a guy to add depth in that position. They've had excellent success drafting edge rushers recently, most notably Tuli Tuipulotu out of USC, and they hope to have a similar guy in their 4th-round pick in Kyle Kennard. And, when you look at the other guys, in the 5th round, they took a receiver out of Auburn named Keandre Lambert-Smith. They took an offensive lineman, Branson Taylor, in the 6th round, ironically with the 199th overall pick, which obviously is a magic number in NFL history with Tom Brady. And then, they took defensive backs with their 6th and 7th round picks, and R.J. Mickens out of Clemson and Tre'Quezi Bridges out of Florida. And they actually had tremendous success at that slot of the draft last year because they drafted a couple of cornerbacks in the 5th round in Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart, who nobody really had an awareness of going into the season, but wound up having just fabulous rookie seasons and were very dependable players for last year's team. And from a value standpoint, were home run selections.
Nice. Absolutely love it. Some great picks, especially fantasy is concerned for the Chargers this year. All right, let's go to you, Philip.
Wait. If it's okay, if I can interject as co-host, real quick.
Go right ahead.
I do have some questions for Isaac because he brought up some really good points about the Najee Harris and the
Oh God, I'm having streaming issues. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
Najee Harris and the Omarion Hampton, like we got to talk a little bit more about this because a lot of people think that Omarion Hampton for the middle of the season and later on in the season is going to take over as the full bell cow. I don't necessarily think that's the case because there are some injury concerns, durability issues for Omarion Hampton. Najee Harris has played 17 games in every season that he's played, so he's always healthy for the most part. So I think that this is going to be a situation where they both get in there and they both do that for the sustainable for the whole season. It's not just like a half season with Najee and split and then it goes to Omarion Hampton. Although I do think Omarion Hampton is better than Najee Harris. But again, we got to see him do it in the NFL. It's a little bit different. So if you could just extrapolate a little bit more on, do you think that it's going to be something that Omarion Hampton can take over at the end, at the middle to end of the season, because that's important for fantasy football players, especially if they are trying to make a playoff run. So, do you think that could happen, or do you think that it's going to be a split all throughout the whole season?
That's a great question from a fantasy football standpoint. I wouldn't hang your hat on that if you're looking at it from a fantasy football draft standpoint, because it's just impossible to predict. Both from a production standpoint and, as you said, whether we're talking about Hampton or Harris, from a health standpoint, I don't think it's as clear cut as it is with other teams. For example, Najee Harris could wind up setting the world on fire at the outset of the season, and he could establish himself as the number one guy from a fantasy football standpoint. From a wins and losses standpoint, it's not necessarily as important for the Chargers as who produces. It's that one of them or both of them produces consistently, because that wasn't the case last year. Generally speaking, and I would add the playoff game to this, even though they had some other issues there, when the Chargers ran the ball effectively last season, they won. When they did not run the ball effectively last season, they lost. And that was a combination of their running backs last year, J.K. Dobbins, who's now with the Denver Broncos, Gus Edwards, as well as the blocking that they had in that particular game during the offensive line. So from a fantasy football standpoint, it's honestly unpredictable, but they need to be a lot more consistent in the running game this year, no matter who's running it, than they did last year. Because just a final thought on this, their offensive coordinator under Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, last year was the first time in 11 years as an NFL offensive coordinator that his teams did not finish in the top 8 in rushing. So that was a big departure from the type of success that he's had running the football as a coach.
I'm sorry. No, this is great. This is great because that's another reason why, because he's right, guys. They ran the ball 26 times a game last year, the Chargers, excuse me. And so now we're looking at a situation where, he did have some deficiencies in the run game. And you got a guy in Justin Herbert, in my opinion, I think is a phenomenal quarterback. And I think that he has all the tools that needed to get the ball down the field. He's strong. He has a strong arm. And I just have a feeling that, they could revert back to the pass game a little bit. You still got Quentin Johnston there, although he had a really good season. I think based off his rookie season to last year, he did have a leap. He still had some drops, but he had a leap. And I think that this year he can build on that, and bringing in Trey Harris and bringing in some other players, that's going to create that competition that's going to breed success and hopefully gets the best out of Quentin Johnston, because that dude is a first-round pick. He's got to have a little bit of pride in him.
I completely agree. Quentin Johnston, as someone who was a first-round pick, was under a tremendous amount of scrutiny, especially in his rookie year and certainly last year. And it wasn't perfect last season, but it was, as you said, it was a significant improvement from his rookie year, over 700 yards receiving. And as it related to your comment about, the running game and how Justin Herbert fits into that, last year, it's not that J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and the running game were bad. It's just that they were inconsistent. I mean, when they were on their game, which happened roughly half the time, maybe a little more, they were as good and productive as any running attack in the league. The problem was they just were not that consistent all season, including in the postseason. And I'm sure we'll get into this later when we talk about the fantasy stats, but I think the Chargers' production and consistency running the football is going to directly affect Justin Herbert's prospects as a fantasy football pick.
Yeah, we're going to get into those skill positions on the next segment. Tip jumping the gun, but that's okay, though, because that's a perfect breakdown, because Tip is right. That's exactly what everybody wants to know about as far as the distribution in the backfield for you guys coming up this season. All right, Philip, talk about your Kansas City Chiefs and talk about their draft. Grade it for me and talk about the guys you like.
All right, let me see what I started, and I forgot to mention the names like Hollywood Brown and also bringing back Trey, and of course he has yet to sign his deal, but we got time for that. But other than that, regarding the draft, man, like I mentioned, Josh Simmons, my guy. I said on my show, the War Room with P. Mac, and before I get to that, Gadsden, Isaac, you guys are gonna love Gadsden. He was one of the guys that us fans and even my guy Jason Dunn, former Chiefs player, was even looking at as the Chiefs looking at as a tight end, somebody that beat the hair thrown to Kelsey. But I'm glad you guys got him and Trey Harris. You guys are gonna bring us a challenge, man, and we can't wait for that. So anyway, I like the Josh Simmons pick. You know, the Chiefs were managed to be in the right place at the right time to land him at number 32, one of the premier tackle prospects. They been looking at him for some time. You know, he met the number one need on that depth chart, a left tackle, even though they signed Jalen Moore, especially giving him time to heal and, keep Mahomes upright and to utilize the team's deep weapons. And then there's also picking up in the 4th round, Jalen Royals, 7th round selection, Rashard Smith. That was the one that really shocked me. I was like, how the heck did you guys let Rashard Smith from SMU, even if you look at his Pro Football Focus grade, especially in blocking, and despite his size, he's got Jamal Charles size, but he can block and he got every ability similar to like Jerry McKinnon with Jamal Charles speed, where he can do a little more rushing. That's why I'm excited about that move.
Wow.
So you add Royals, who had extreme production at Utah State, and with the natural ability to get open, he's expected to be the 3rd receiver, tagging along with Hollywood behind Worthy and Rice, and then there's Juju Smith-Schuster. Smith joins Kareem Pacheco in the backfield, is expected to be a versatile threat who can make an impact in the passing game and also a productive kick returner on top of that. Then I love in the 2nd round when we picked up one of my favorite pass rushing defensive tackles, Omar Norman Lott. Oh, snap, Omar coming. Yeah, you're going to see that every time when he's lined up next to Chris Jones, man, because that's what we need is somebody who can open up to Chris so he don't have to take on them double and triple teams. And when I looked at his tape, he could take on those things despite his size, similar to like what Aaron Donald used to do. And that's the type of player that we needed. So he replaces what we have from Wharton, and shout out to Wharton as he goes to handle his business in Carolina, and also Derek Nottie. Also, I actually like this move. It was an underrated pickup, Ashton Gelati from Louisville. And Isaac, I would tell you this, man. If you ever looked at his measurables, especially the arm length, he will remind you of a certain player that played with the Chargers, and he later came to the Chiefs. But before he came to the Chiefs, he was with the Steelers, if you know who I'm talking about. And his motor and his playing style reminds me so much of him. He's a little taller than him, but I think you know who I'm talking about. He was also a duo mate with Bosa.
Oh, Melvin Gordon? Melvin
Ingram?
Melvin Ingram. Melvin Ingram.
That's who Gelati reminds me so much of. And just, he might not put on sack numbers, but this was the name of the guy I was watching and looking at right after we lost the Super Bowl, because you saw how Josh Sweat just terrorized the entire Chiefs offensive line. And I was like, let me look at certain players in this draft class who could be like our Jared Verse, who could be like making that impact like Josh Sweat, or like a Minihue, who's the 2nd best pass rusher behind Chris Jones. And then there's my guy, Curious George Karlaftis. Gelati is just, his pass rushing productivity was among the top 5 among the pass rushers coming into this draft class. And I'm like, that's the type of impact that we need, somebody who can open up for all the other guys, including Chris and the Minihue, because, you know, we're known as Sack Nation. And when you brought a Minihue back in, coming back from his injury, he really turned up the pass rush, and that's what we're looking for. And like my boy D-Mac from Kingdom Cash, shout out to him and the guys over there. That's why we thought it was important to bring back a Minihue, because he helps open up that pass rush. And then I believe finish off the last two guys I like. I love the Noel Williams pickup. He was another guy, you know, that pick artist. He can also help in run support, cover pass catches on an island, on the boundary, or in the slot, even blitz the quarterback like McDuffie, but he's a little taller and lengthier. And then lastly, Jeffrey Bassa from Oregon in the 5th round. He addresses that linebacking position, because we had a guy named Ben Neiman, or, you know, Dirty Dan in on linebacking roles. Let's just say he's an upgrade from those guys, and that's what we're looking for at the pure linebacker dime role, and that's what we're looking for. Similar to kind of like what Darwin James did with the Chargers, where he was your base strong safety, and then he would just drop into like the dime role or sometimes in the slot, and that's the versatility that we're needing, and that's what we got. That's what we were missing from Willie Gay, and fans were talking about bringing back Willie Gay, but I feel like this is that Willie Gay replacement. And then I just got to mention these couple of undrafted free agents, because this is also where Brett Veach makes his bread and butter, similar to like what the Seahawks did in the past with those guys that nobody else wanted. You know, there's Bringstool. If we didn't get Gatson, Bringstool from Clemson is another guy who's like our Gatson, similar guy who did a lot of things like Travis Kelce. It's just that his strength and then his speed was what held him back. But when I look at his ability, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Zach Ertz. And there's also Elijah Badger from Florida. He's a guy who might be coming for Sky Moore's spot. And I don't want to put Sky out there like that, man. But once again, what have you done for me lately? And
Nothing.
Hey, man, how you think us fans here feel about Sky? Like, it makes us say we would rather have Johnston, because Johnson was able to step up in year 2. Sky,
he had so much potential. He had so much potential. Sky Moore did. I remember that Super Bowl when he came out and had. I know he had a touchdown, and
he did.
Yeah, it's just like there was so much potential going for him the next year, and then he just couldn't put it together. I think he may have gotten injured too.
Somewhere along the line, he lost his confidence. I think he had a couple drop balls. Reed pulled him a couple times, and I think that was just it for his confidence.
Man.
I wouldn't think it's confidence. I'll put it like this. Let's say you are that guy who's being hyped up as like, oh, man, anything that gets him, you are going to get a steal. When they link you with the Chiefs of all teams, we're expecting you to be that guy when you come
Clyde
in.
Edwards-Helaire.
Exactly. Don't be Clyde Edwards-Helaire just gonna be like, it's a free rider to a free ring. Nah, man, you gonna come in here and work for that ring, bro.
He's right.
There's no I in team, bro.
He's right.
Come on, brother. So like that's
no I. I love it. I love it.
Well, there is in Chiefs and there is in Dolphins. So and Raiders. But anyway, hey, listen, man. I ain't got nothing against the Raiders. Of course, you know the history between us and the Raiders, but I actually love that rivalry, and I just hope that
it's fun.
Continues. It's fun and everything, man. But last but not least, the one favorite guy that I like is Eddie Zapalik from who was from USC. He was the Ray Guy award winner for the college best punter, and he could be going for Matt Ariza's spot. And I even wrote down when we picked him up, he could be that training camp competition, like if it was a Hard Knocks story, like who's going to be the new punter between him or Ariza, the punt guy. So that's the things that I like about our draft class. Actually, as a matter of fact, that was my Jake Bringstool comparison. He has the Jack Doyle size, but the pass-catching skills of Antonio Gates, because these are two undrafted tight ends, but they made a name for themselves going to Pro Bowl, especially Antonio Gates, who's one of the greatest tight ends of all time, man. So just got to have to mention that too. So, yeah.
So in case anyone missed it, he likes their entire draft class, including the ones after the draft. So just mark it down. That's an A++. So we'll just somebody over there. Ryan, thank you so much for your comment.
Just give him an A. Just give. They don't need the plus. Come on now.
We're just trying to get back to that mug. That's it.
Ryan, thanks for the like. We appreciate you giving us the compliment, of course. And he says, "Go Chiefs and go Tampa Bay Bucks." Nice little mix. He also wanted to know if we talked about the Browns QB situation. We're going to get there, which is our summer tour. So we go through both two teams a night. We're going to get to that Browns QB situation. We're hearing a lot of different things. Joe Flacco for sure. And then Kenny Pickett's going to get all the work and blah, 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 blah. Let's see how it works out a little bit as we go along. And we'll probably have a better assessment when we do talk about it at that point.
Shameless plug. I did write an article about that. So if you want to go check it out, go to Odds Checkers and look up my article, Tip Major, and you can see what my thoughts are on the Cleveland Browns. There you go.
No shameless indeed. Plug it all you want, my brother. We appreciate that. We'll check that out for sure. All right, guys, if you're new to TSS or you've seen us before we get to our next segment, we got to do a fun little segment with our injury expert. He's going to talk about the Chargers and a couple of skill position players and their percent to hit the bench this season. Let's check it out. We're living and dying in LA with the Superchargers. All right, Brian, what do you got tonight for the Chargers?
All right, we're going to kick it off with Justin Herbert at the quarterback position. You know, the last few years, it's like, what hasn't this dude played through as far as injuries are concerned? He broke his finger late in 2023, had off-season surgery, recovered from that, then dealt with a bout of plantar fasciitis in his foot throughout much of last season. Into the summer as well, and then had a high ankle sprain and some ankle soreness at one point. I mean, the guy, no matter what, though, was pretty durable, stayed out there for most of the time, didn't miss much action. He's fully recovered from most of those injuries, if not all of them. I give him a percent to bench of 15%, but a healthy Herbert means improved deep accuracy and mobility with fewer limitations for that Chargers offense, so good news there. Najee Harris, he joined the Chargers over from Pittsburgh, and he stayed healthy for the most part in Pittsburgh up until late in the 2024 season when he dealt with concussion issues. No reported injuries since. He signed a 1-year, $9+ million deal and has been cleared, and it sounds like he is going to be good to go, but I don't know if he ever really reached peak performance when he was with Pittsburgh, so hopefully better things to come for him now that he's heading to San Diego. And then Quentin Johnson, this is a make or break year for him. I think it's like year 3. He's dealt with a neck injury at training camp last season, had some issues with drops, and then reportedly he's been fully healthy though and active early this offseason and getting ready with OTAs and stuff. So it sounds like he's taking this season seriously and should be coming into camp very healthy. I'll give Najee Harris a percent to bench score of 5%, and Quentin Johnson will get a 10% score from me.
I love it. I love it. All right, Brian, thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next one.
Sounds good.
All righty. Not a bad percent to the bench for those Chargers. All right, well, we talked about what was, and let's talk about what is. Let's talk about season predictions.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious shit.
All right, let's hit that QB. We just heard about Justin Herbert. Isaac, what do you think? Do you think Justin Herbert this season can match what he did last season and or do better or worse? What do you think?
I certainly think that he can at least match the kind of season that he had last year, which was fabulous on the field, but from a fantasy football standpoint, there's a couple of ways to approach this. Number one, his biggest attribute, both in terms of winning games and fantasy football, was his lack of committing turnovers during the regular season. He had the fewest interceptions in the NFL with just 3 against 23 touchdown passes. So one thing that he was fabulous at during the regular season last year was simply not turning the ball over. What's interesting is that the best thing for the Chargers' overall success during his career is more when Justin Herbert throws for less yards than when he throws for astronomical passing yardage numbers. If he passes for like 350, 400 yards, in a game, that over his career is typically a game that the Chargers would lose, because it means that he basically needs to put the team on his back, which he can do quite capably, but it's not necessarily a recipe for winning a Super Bowl. So as it turned out last year, they have the best year they've ever had during his era in the first year of the Jim Harbaugh era, but he has a career low 228 passing yards per game, which from a fantasy football standpoint is not necessarily spectacular, but it was from a winning standpoint because he had a career high in passer rating. And again, it all goes back to the fact that during the regular season, at least, he had the fewest interceptions in the league with 3. In fact, the Chargers as a team during the regular season had literally historically good year in avoiding turnovers. They had just 9 turnovers all season last year in 17 games as a team, which was the best in franchise history by far. The previous record low for turnovers in a season was 15, but it was also literally one of the lowest turnover totals in all of NFL history as well.
Sorry, I was on mute there. I love it. Great analysis there. I was just sorry. I was laughing. I was looking at the comments because Tip was trying to put his article, I guess, in there for the.
I don't know what's going on.
I was gonna comment. We'll just copy and paste the whole thing in there. Why not?
I don't know. I'm gonna stop messing with technology.
Well, since we're talking to you, Tip, right now, current ADP has Justin Herbert ranked 12th. What do you think? Is he below or higher than that? I'm sorry. He was that last season. I apologize. That's where he finished last year. I said that incorrectly. Right now, current ADP has it ranked 10th. So what do you think?
Yeah, I like that. I was going to say 10, 12. I wouldn't be mad if you wanted to be curious at getting him in 8, 9. Especially if you're in a 2 QB league, I think that he would be a really good number 2. Or if you want him to be your number 1 and maybe a Justin Fields to be your number 2, that would work as well. I think that he can get to that top 10. I know a lot of people are concerned about the running thing, right? And Isaac put it so well earlier, talking about how they didn't commit to the run like they wanted to, or like they may have should have, or stay disciplined. Could they do that more this year? I don't know. I think they actually throw a little bit. Yeah, I think that they know they're in a division where all of these offensive now have gotten better. The Chiefs, we're not going to talk about them, but the Denver Broncos have gotten better. My Raiders, they're getting better as well. And I think they're going to have to score points now. So I think they're going to get to a situation where we see a little bit more of a shootout for the Chargers. Will that defense hold up? Last year, that defense was lights out. For a majority of the season, the opponents only averaged 15 points a game, something crazy. At one point, it was like 13 points a game, but then it started to let up, and some of the injuries have started to pile up, as they tend to always do. And so that in of itself has me to think, yeah, Jesse Minter, great defensive coordinator. I think he's going to build upon this year. But could there be some situations where people are looking at this defense now, figured some things that Jesse Minter did, and now could they exploit some of those things? Absolutely. And now we can see a little bit more back and forth or shootouts for fantasy football. So I like Justin Herbert. I think that he is a borderline 1 in this situation.
All right. Well, let's go to Phil for the next one. Let's talk about your boy, Pat Mahomes. Ironically, last year, Herbert finished 12th. Pat Mahomes finished 11th. Last season. What do you think? What do you think about this season? Think he can exceed that, or you think he'd be about the same? What do you think, Phil?
He could exceed that. I think just last year was a true off year for him, especially like what Pat said after that Chargers game where Rashid got hurt and he ran into him on accident. He said, if I didn't throw the interception, Rashid wouldn't have got hurt, and that probably would have had the balance in the offense and the passing attack that everybody was used to seeing. Like everybody remembers that 50-yard bomb to Worthy, even though we lost to the Eagles. That was the look that Mahomes wanted the offense to look all year from last season, and we just didn't get to that. And, Kelsey had his off year, and I'm not going to say, is it Taylor and all that? No, because if it was Taylor wouldn't have convinced him to come back, because she even said, you ain't going out like that either. So, I love the way that we are just going to come in here. I just think personally this is like the Out for Blood tour. Mahomes Last year, he didn't go his usual over 4,000 yards passing, and he had about 26 touchdown passes, 14 interceptions. I think now because you add Josh Smith and you definitely improved the offensive line. Of course, we lost Joe Tooney, and we wish him all the luck out there in Chicago, man. He's a legend. But, you know, business is business, and we had to free up some money in order to pay Trey, and that's all part of the game, just like Moneyball. You're not buying the player, you're buying wins, and that's what the concept that the Chiefs are still going with here. So, anyway, to buy those wins, we just got to fix those structures that made us who we were, and we might not be the same offense that we were in 2018 when Mahomes threw those 5,000-yard passing and 50 touchdowns. So, my bold prediction stats is Mahomes will throw between 4,700 yards passing to 5,000. I'll say 36 touchdown passes to 38 touchdown passes, and interceptions, 9 to 10 interceptions. He can't go over 10. And I kind of feel like he knows that that's the mark there for him. And I think he's going to challenge himself to not make those decisions. And of course, he's known to make those beautiful plays that we know to see. But I think where he's at now, he's going to become a little more mature and be like, you know, I've done that before. I'll do that when the time is right and the opportunity presents itself. And, you know, that's just all I'll say about that.
Wait, Philip, that's not really bold though, man. That's doable for Patrick Mahomes this year. I think that you're right on it. Like you're talking about 30 to 36 touchdowns. I think that's right on the mark. And, you know, upwards of 45 plus 100 yards. I think that's right on the mark because again, all of these teams are getting better in this division, and you're gonna have to start throwing. They're not gonna win many games this year. 17-13 in this division because you know Sean Payton's coming for you. Then you got Chip Kelly. He's gonna run his Chip Kelly offense, and you got your guys too. So it's an offense or a situation where they're going to have to score points. So I think you're on it. I think you're right about Mahomes.
I think in the current ADP right now, agrees with both of you. Got him ranked 6th overall right now, which is pretty high for not for Mahomes, but from the season he had last year, which was in our eyes a disappointment. But again, when you're finishing 11th amongst the quarterbacks in the league for fantasy, that's pretty darn good. All right, let's move on to the running backs. I know, Isaac, you kind of gave your spiel on the the running backfield situation. So if there anything else you wanted to add to that as far as performance-wise, how do you think how well they'll do this year?
Yeah, I think it's impossible to, predict that they're going to have a lead number one running back from start to finish from, week 1 to week 18, like a lot of other teams in the league do. So I think from an individual fantasy football standpoint, that's going to be a little hard to predict as it pertains to individual draft picks. But as far as the importance to winning, I cannot emphasize enough how important it's going to be for the Chargers to have a consistent running game next season. So last year, as I said, it was feast or famine. But if they can achieve the sort of consistency and dependability with their running game that Greg Roman has had typically throughout his NFL career as an offensive coordinator, I think then they'll have the capability to make as deep of a playoff run as anybody.
Justin, let's go to you since we heard Tip on this one. So let's hear it from you. Right now, the current ADP has Hampton ranked 20th and Najee 31st. So what do you think of that? Do you think any of those guys can exceed that?
Oh, yeah, Najee's definitely going to exceed that. I think Hampton's probably not going to exceed that. He'll probably end up right around that region. My biggest thing is that Harbaugh has a history of workhorsing backs, and Najee is a workhorse back. He is, like Tip said, I don't think he's missed a game since he's been in the league. And if he has, it's been like 1 or 2. It's been, it's nothing that's been like a continuous thing. Like he doesn't have an injury history in that regard where it's like every year you're banking on him missing games. He just doesn't. He's a workhorse. And you got to remember, he's only there on a 1-year deal. It's a really lucrative, nice 1-year deal, which means to me, I'm going, Harbaugh's going to use him, run him into the ground, and slowly bring in Omari and Hampton. And he's really going to stretch out that 5-year contract that they really do have with rookies, especially rookie first-rounders. So I look at that and I go, unless Najee Harris has a major issue, and Greg Roman has shown this too, he likes to go with one back. his years with Baltimore were kind of one of those things where he just kept on getting injured. But they were really going with one back, but it was just injuries would tack on, and Lamar Jackson was so much better at running than the running backs anyways. So Lamar Jackson would end up being the rushing leaders. So for me, I look at this as it's very easy. Go with Najee Harris and just really ride him out if you're doing redraft. I mean, if you're doing dynasty, try and go with Omari and Hampton. And the easy thing, pair him up with Najee Harris, and you'll guarantee what you're going to get.
It's like the Monopoly. You're getting Park Place and Boardwalk at the same time. You gotta love it. Phil, let's go to the running back situation in Kansas City. We know Pacheco got injured last year. I personally think he's going to have a really good season this year. But tell me your thoughts. Do you think Kareem Hunt starts getting a little more carry since he did so well last season? Just what are your thoughts on the running back situation?
Personally, for me, I actually agree there. I actually think Pacheco, this is the year because, like the late great Terez Paylor always said, Terez Paylor was a well-known Kansas City writer, especially for the Kansas City Star, had the inside stuff and scoop, and he also had great, incredible quotes, especially like he always said, the contract year stays undefeated. So Pacheco's coming into the contract year, especially after what happened to him last year, and when you've seen videos of him trying to get back to being the guy that he was in 2022 and 2023, especially who was dancing to Louis Uzi Vert, just want to rock. That's where he's trying to get back to, and we hope to see that. But I can see him getting at least 600. They're almost trying to what he did his rookie year. 800, almost try to get to that 900, close to 1,000-yard mark that he tried to go for it in 2023. But because you got Kareem Hunt and now you added Elijah Mitchell, who we got from the 49ers, and then also he might be the Ronald Johnson for our team because we definitely need to carry enough running backs, especially with all that talent. And then you add Rashard Smith, who is going to be our clear third down back, our Jerick McKinnon role, who I see where he might not be more focal point in the rushing game, but in those occasions when we need those short yardage, especially with his speed, but he's going to make his bread and butter in the passing game, man, especially in those short yardage opportunities. And with that speed and elusiveness, I can see him getting like 34 to 38 catches, about 290 to 320-plus yards receiving. I see 3 to 4 touchdown catches, and I think he scores or 1 or 2 kickoff return or punt return touchdowns this year. On top of that.
That's nice for sure. Justin, what do you think on the running back situation right now? Pacheco ranked 29th overall ADP. What do you think? Is he better or worse than that? Or do you think someone else steps up there in the ranks?
I mean, I think he's definitely better than that. You know, a lot of people are really off on him because of the injury, but, you know, we just saw Tony Pollard kind of recover from that as well. You know, I think that Achilles are kind of becoming more or less like ACLs with wide receivers now. You kind of just give it a year. People recover, people get better training now, and they come back stronger. Pacheco, for me, has always been more of a will guy anyways. You know, there's something about a guy who gets drafted in the 7th round. He's got a huge chip on his shoulder. He's trying to get that next contract around the corner. Everything's just playing out for him. I think Rashard Smith was an interesting pick. I wasn't too heavy on him because at SMU, he was kind of, to me, he was probably better off being like a slot receiver than being an actual wide receiver, but, you know, or being a running back. But, you know, there's so many converted running backs from wide receiver positions now that it's just becoming a thing. And maybe it's because they're more explosive and you want to get the ball in space now. That's how the game seems to be going. Elijah Mitchell was an interesting one to me at the beginning because coming from San Francisco, Elijah Mitchell's a dog. Elijah Mitchell is that fast, speedy guy, that one cut, break the freaking tackle and go straight for the end zone type of guy. I hope he doesn't get cut because I think he could still be pretty good. Yeah. But, yeah, I'll close it out with I think that Isaiah Pacheco still has a lot in the gas tank. I think he's better than 29 for sure.
All right, Isaac, we're going to go receivers now. And you mentioned it earlier, Ladd McConkey finished number 11th overall last year. Wow. I know a lot of people were kind of in between, 1 foot in, 1 foot out on McConkey last season before the season started. But, man, you get both feet in right now. That's for sure. Quentin Johnston, 36th overall last year. Not too shabby. What do you think? These guys repeat performance from last year, or what do you think?
I see improvement, if that can be believed, with Ladd McConkey with a year of experience under his belt. And I see a continued improvement with Quentin Johnston as well. When you trace Ladd McConkey's rookie season, it's not really like he snuck up on anybody. He established himself as the Chargers' #1 receiver fairly early in the season. Going into last year, the Chargers had undergone a tremendous change in their offensive personnel with the departures of longtime top receiving duo Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Ironically, Mike Williams is now back with the Chargers after a year. And I'd add running back Austin Eckler, who was a pass-catching weapon out of the backfield, to that mix as well. So Ladd McConkey established himself as the Chargers' best receiver and most dependable receiver relatively early in the season last year. And the reason that I think Ladd McConkey's offensive production will continue this season and perhaps increase is throughout last season, he had established himself as the Chargers' gotta have it guy, meaning if your offense is in a situation where you gotta have it on a 3rd down and long, or a big down late in the 4th quarter, everyone knew that the ball was coming to him, including the defense, and they still couldn't stop him from producing. And that also included the playoff game against Houston, when he was the only ONLY dependable receiving threat for the Chargers and wound up with an NFL rookie record 197 receiving yards. So I see a very similar, if not better, season for Ladd McConkey because they were as focused on him defensively last year as they're going to be this year, and they still could not limit him.
Well, Tip, what do you think? Right now, they got Ladd top 10 right now in the 10th overall ADP. And they got Quentin Johnson down there at number 52 somewhere down there. So what do you think? They're going to overperform the ADP or fall under it?
Quentin Johnson could definitely overperform his ADP. I think McConkey could be that guy. I think it's going to hurt me. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think he takes a little bit of a backseat, and I think Ladd McConkey jumps him. And I think that Ladd McConkey becomes the new Amon-Ra St. Brown because of all the things that Isaac just talked about, because he gets separation. I know that there's injury concerns, but he gets separation. Justin Herbert trusts him. The coaching staff trusts him. He's going to make the plays when they need it the most. So he's going to make the plays for you because most likely you're in a PPR league. So if you're in a PPR league, or hell, if you're in the Scott Fish Bowl, like this is a guy that is like easily one of the top 5 wide receivers because of the targets he's going to get, because of the opportunities he's going to get. It's inevitable. It's just a big thing is making sure he stays healthy. But that's it. That's the only thing with him. So I think 10, I would be a little bit more aggressive, depending on what type of league I'm in. I would be a little bit more aggressive. If I'm in a redraft, I think that's right around 10. Wide receiver 10 is good. If I'm in a dynasty, though, because of his age and because of Herbert's age, and they're going to be together for a long time, I think that I would be a little bit more aggressive because I want to have that for a long time.
Absolutely. All right, Phil, let's talk about the receiver room for the Chiefs. All right, we already know Rashee Rice. You talked about him earlier. The one thing I'll note is on Xavier Worthy, man, when I was watching him, it felt like I was watching somebody who had like the speed stick on Madden. He just looked so fast on that field. It was just scary. I remember those were the exact words that came out of my mouth was, wow, he's scary. So what do you think right now? I just looked it up and it just crossed my mind. I'm sorry. They got Rashee Rice ranked 20th overall, and they got Xavier Worthy 26th right now currently. But what do you think? Do you think it's going to be Rashee Rice as this #1 alpha, or do you think Xavier Worthy comes in and takes it away from him?
I actually think they're going to play off each other, but I think Worthy had to be the #1 guy because Rice went down. So now that you got 2 dogs, I think they're just going to play off of each other. And then you got the other big dog, the big slot, Big Yeti, even though he's a tight end, but we count him as our real #1 wide receiver because it's really not about like like replacing Kelsey, for example. It's about replacing that number one volume, and that's what Rice was doing before his injury. So now coming back, and I think as you see him back to full health, and let's just say hopefully the charges from his little speed situation, trying to be Vin Diesel in Dallas, doesn't affect him going into this season. I can see him finally get like 80 plus catches, 1,100 yards receiving, about 8 touchdown catches, and Worthy about 600 to 800 yards receiving, almost the same amount of touchdowns like he did his rookie season, letting them get more involved. And then you got to take into consideration, you still got Hollywood Brown, because right after the Super Bowl, Hollywood Brown and Hollywood Brown and Worthy looked at each other even and talked to Nate Taylor and said, I'm coming back next year. We're going to pick up where we left off, because if Brown didn't get hurt in that preseason game against the Jaguars, like Rice, now imagine you had those guys healthy with Worthy before we knew Worthy was going to do all that with his speed and everything, knowing that he had that speed. And then you don't forget Jalen Royals. Royals was a dog at Utah State, and he even played on a broken foot last year. He ran a 4.42 on his broken foot at the combine. If he didn't break his foot, they said he ran a 4.32. So you got a list full of speedsters, and even you got a talented guy like Elijah Badger who went undrafted, which I don't know how he went undrafted and how we landed him, especially with the talent that we got in that room. Everybody's going to play off of each other. Of course, there's going to be competition, especially the number 6 wide receiver role. If the Chiefs are going to carry 6 wide receivers, but if they keep 7 like they did in 2023, that's good too, especially gives Sky Moore an opportunity to still live off his contract year. And I ain't gonna lie, I think he's gonna come in a little more motivated, actually more motivated because of the contract year. But other than that, I think that's going to be the competition that fans are going to look at going into St. Joe, Missouri, this coming late July, to watch that competition there, because we already know who's going to be 1 through 5. The question is, who's going to be the 6th wide receiver?
Man, that's a good problem to have, that's for sure. Tip, what do you think of this receiver room? Do you think these guys overperform their ADP, or what do you think?
Yeah, I Rashee Rice outperforms it immensely. He was on pace last year for over 1,300 yards, double-digit touchdowns, 80 catches. He was on pace for a wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. It's just unfortunate what happened in LA that one Sunday, and now he has to try and play catch up. All reports have heard that he's back on the practice field. He's looking good. I know that there is that concern about the legal stuff that also is going on. So that, if you're in a redraft league, I would caution you. I would say, make sure you have a game plan just in case at the end of the season they take him away for a few games, and then that's crucial and you need those wins. Or if it's a dynasty, again, I'm being aggressive. I'm not worried about the legal things that could happen this year or next year, because I'm going to have him over the course of the season, and he's a young player. So it's for me, I think Rashee Rice is the alpha. He is the guy. He's taken over everybody's spot. He's taken over Travis Kelce's spot. This is his team now. This is his group. And Xavier Worthy, again, a very good compliment to what Rashee Rice does. Rashee Rice likes to operate in the middle to intermediate to short game, a little bit of long, but intermediate and short game is his field. And then Xavier Worthy's just going to hit you all over the place. He's going to be like Sonic the Hedgehog running around. And that's just what that's what Andy Reid wants to do with the offense. And that's another reason why I'm high on the offense for fantasy.
Just a real quick note, from what I read, Rashee Rice legal matters won't be dealt with till after the season is over with. So expect
go for it. Yeah, redraft and go for it.
Yeah. Next season's when you can expect a suspension. All right, we've already been. Go ahead. All right, my bad.
No, I was gonna say, and if you're in a dynasty league, you're not worried about it then. So you're in dynasty. You got him this year. You just hope he stays healthy or nothing pops up, and then you worry about whatever happens next year and whatever how many games it is, and then you got to. That's it. So I think you're good either way. That's cool.
It's not one of those indefinite suspensions, so I wouldn't really stress it too much.
Yeah.
All right, we've already been up to an hour, so I don't want to take too much time on the tight ends. But so we already know Travis Kelce. We ain't really much talk about that. But I got one question for Isaac. You got a very, very crowded tight end room with Disley, Conklin, and of course Gadsden. So you tell me, who's the guy that's going to be the one that we need to eye up going into fantasy season?
I would say strictly from a fantasy standpoint, the one who I think would have the most chance of exceeding his value as a pick might be the rookie, Oronde Gadsden II. I just think if he gets an opportunity to flourish as a down the field tight end early in the season, he can be a guy who really outperforms the slot where he's, selected in a fantasy football situation. Because like I said, the receiver and the tight end position group, I think, is the biggest unknown quantity with this team right now. When it comes to the receiving core, we certainly know what Ladd McConkey can do, and I think is going to do individually. But I think from a unit-wide standpoint with the wide receivers and especially the tight ends, it's more of an unknown. Because like I said, last season, the guy who was their number one tight end, Will Disley, was projected to be their number two tight end and more of a blocking tight end. And now, you have Oronde Gadsden, who I think has the chance of all the people in that position group to outperform where he might be drafted in a fantasy football situation. You add Tyler Conklin, a veteran tight end who spent the last 3 years with the Jets and is a solid 8-year guy, into the mix. I really think that's a position group where you're not sure what you're going to get from this year's Chargers. So with that in mind, from a purely fantasy standpoint, I think that Gadsden might be the guy who's the most potential to exceed his value.
Yeah, especially in Dynasty, I think his value definitely rises a bit for me anyway, because he's somebody that could step up and be their big tight end for years to come. So I like that. All right, well, listen, we talked about what was, we talked about what is. Now we're going to have a little fun with you guys since we have you here to send you out. Before we do that, we got one other percent to the bench from our guy from the Injury List podcast. Let's talk about those Chiefs. Time to get some barbecue going because we're in Kansas City with the Chiefs, AFC champion, returning AFC champions, I should say. Who do we got tonight, Bri, for the Chiefs?
Well, it's crazy. Despite all of their injuries, which happened very early last season, the Chiefs got a lot of those players back just in time for their playoff push, which carried them into the Super Bowl. And we expect that they will be healthy heading into this season, which is great news again. The Kansas City is going to be a team to compete with. Rashee Rice is coming off an LCL injury to his knee in week 4. He missed most of the season, but he did get cleared for returning this spring, running and doing some route work. I'm going to give him a percent to bench score of 20%. These injuries at the wide receiver position with the Chiefs have been very significant and have not been mild or low in numbers. So got to keep the percentage high, unfortunately. Speaking of Marquise Hollywood Brown, he had that dislocated sternoclavicular joint in the preseason. He had a late return and was limited last year. He should be fully healthy, ready to go in this camp, and hopefully that injury never happens again and he's fully recovered from that, which I suspect he will be. And then finally wrapping it up with Isaiah Pacheco. Unfortunately, he had a fractured fibula and then had off-season shoulder and hand surgery. The guy was really banged up. Apparently, he's completed his rehab. He's ready to go, and it regained a lot of his explosiveness. Apparently, he's also bulked up a little bit. I expect he's going to be a workhorse this season. I'm giving him a percent to bench score of 10%. And Hollywood Brown is going to get a 5% because he should be fully recovered from his injury. So good news for Chiefs fans out there.
Yeah, I like Pacheco a lot this year. I'm glad to hear you say full bill of health. So let's get it going. All right. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week. And thanks again, Brian.
You got it.
All righty. We get lost tip there. Okay, let me bring him back in. Sorry about that. All right. So good, clean bill of health, I think, for those Chiefs too. Doc's got some good news for you guys. All right, we're gonna play a little game now. We call it the Fantasy Quiz Show. I'm gonna explain this now because I felt like last week I explained it and then they weren't getting it. So let me explain it now. This is Family Feud style. So I'm gonna ask you both a question at first, and whoever answers correctly first will get to try to get the rest of the round. So there'll be 5 answers total. So if you answer first correctly, you will get control of the round. If you get 3 strikes, however, the other person will get a chance to steal. So just like Family Feud. All right, let's put this on. And by the way, when I ask questions, they are specifically between your 2 teams, the Chargers and the Chiefs. No one else, just Chargers Chiefs players. That's all we're looking for. All right, let's get it on. It's Fantasy Quiz Show time.
There seems to be no sign of intelligent life.
It's the Fantasy Quiz Show.
Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson. It's gonna be a long game.
Not gonna be a long game. Look at Tip's picture. Not gonna be a long game tonight because we got Chiefs and Chargers experts in the building. So let's get it on. First question. I'm going all-time history now between both your squads. Who has the most passing yards in between your 2 teams' quarterbacks?
Dan Fouts?
Dan Fouts.
That is correct.
Booyah. Great one. He is number 2 on this list, 43,040 yards. All right, Isaac.
Number 2? He's not number 1? Wow.
He is not number 1 on this list. So, my friend, you got control, though. You got time to figure it out. What do you think? What's your next guess?
Okay, so forgive my ignorance with you literally just having explained the rules. Do I have to get number 1 or can it be any of the top 5?
You can get any of the top 5. That gets you control. So then you just try to close out the round after that.
Oh boy, talk about pressure. All right. I have no idea who would be number 1 if it's not Fouts. I'm just going to go with Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers.
Okay.
He's the one who's number 1 on this list with, I freaking pulled it down, 59,271 yards. So
wow, as Philip himself would say, dang it, that's a lot of yards.
Leave me alone. Anyway, all right, what else you got?
All right, I got obviously Patrick Mahomes.
Pat Mahomes. That is correct. He is number 3 with 32,000 on there. All right, now we're getting there. The nitty-gritty.
Yeah, and it's not going to be Drew Brees because he obviously played most of his career, with the Saints and not the Chargers. So, boy, now here's where I start to run dry. Okay, I'm going to go I'm thinking early to mid 90s. I'm going to say, I know he was with the Seahawks, but I'm still going to try for his years with the Chiefs. Dave Craig?
Dave Craig? Correct. All right, that's only 1 strike. Got 2 more to close it out with 2 answers left.
Oh, boy. Okay. So let's see. You know what? I know he's thrown for like more yards in his first 5 years than anyone in NFL history. I don't think it's enough to get in the career top 5 in this particular category, but what the hell? Justin Herbert?
Justin Herbert? Double check. I was like, wait, what? Okay, so you got 1 strike left, but there's still 2 answers up there. So let's see.
I'm just flaming out. Okay. I'm not going to go Steve DeBerg. I know I'm going to kick myself. And Joe Montana didn't play enough years for the Chiefs. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to give up. I'm out of guesses.
All right, hit him, Justin. The guy in the back.
I know I'm going to groan when I hear him.
Cannot play with him. Cannot win with him. Cannot coach with him. Can't do it.
No, sir, cannot. Phil, you got
pretty accurate.
You got 2 answers here. You just need to guess one of them to steal the round. So it's number 4 and number 5.
Number 4 and number 5. You're talking about for my franchise, like passing yards?
Between both franchises.
All right, man. Only top 5. Well, of course, with us, there's Mahomes. There's Len Dawson.
Is that your guess?
Yeah.
All right. Is it Lenny Dawson? Indeed, it is. Number 4 on this list is Lenny Dawson. And number 5, Isaac, take your Chargers fan card out your pocket. It's John Hadle. Don't ask me the year. 26,938. He's number 5 on this list. So there you go. All right, Philip, you're up 1. Let's keep it moving. We're going to go on to question number 2. Now you got a nice flow, understand what's going on here. I want to know, between both franchises, who has amounted the most rushing yards?
LaDainian Tomlinson.
LaDainian Tomlinson. Isaac's quick to the punch. LaDainian Tomlinson, number 1 on this list, 12,490. All right, Isaac.
Here's the problem. I'm going to get the top one, and then I'm going to completely flame out at the very end. All right, Jamal Charles.
Jamal Charles, number dose on this list, 7,260.
Oh gosh, this is torture. That's my problem. I get like the top 2 and 3, and then the rest I flame out. Okay. Let me see. Let me go with a different era for the Chargers. Let me go. This sounds crazy, but I just want to at least mention his name because I was a fan of him during his era. Marion Butts.
Marion Butts. Did not make the list, unfortunately. All right, that's only one strike. You got 3 answers out there.
Okay. Boy, I'm not going to say necessarily Austin Eckler just because he got so many yards, pass catching as well as rushing. Natron Means I don't think had enough. I'm going to go really old school and probably be wrong again, but Chuck Muncie.
Chuck Muncie.
Oh
man, he's been on it. He's been on a few questions we've had, actually. It's funny you brought him up. All right, so you got 2 strikes, but 3 answers out there. Let's get one of them.
Okay. All right, this is a last-ditch effort, but I'm going to go with a Chief. I wanted to go with Christian Okoye because I'm a huge fan of his. I actually worked with him a couple of times back in the day, but I'm going to go with Larry Johnson.
That is correct. That is correct. He's number 4 on this list, 6,015 yards. So left, you got number 3 and number 5 still left.
Oh, boy. I don't think that Marcus Allen played enough of his career with the Chiefs to qualify because he got most of them with the Raiders. Gosh, I'm like literally being tortured by this. All right. Okay, because this is a total prayer. I'm going to go religious here and say
he's on it.
Priest Holmes.
He's on it.
That is correct. That is correct. He's number 3, 6,070. All right, you got 1 left, but you only got 1 strike left. So
yeah, I'm out of gas. No one else is coming to mind, I'm afraid. Yep.
All right, Justin, you know what to do. Well, that was his 3 strikes, Justin. So let's give him the 3rd one.
It's really unfair. It's my team.
Sorry, Terrell.
All right, Philip. When you steal it, there's only 1 answer you can get. So full on in. Who do you got?
I would go with Christian Okoye, but I'm not. Isaac stole my answers if I would have taken that round, but I'm going to say Paul Lowe.
Paul Lowe.
Ooh.
I'm gonna start taking people's phones away. Ain't no way the hell you do that. Paul Lowe, number 5 on this list, 4,972. Good guess though, for sure. All right, let's go. Question number 3. Phillips up 2-0. Isaac, you got to get this one or it's game over. We're gonna go most receiving yards between both teams.
Well, I'll start. Well, Travis Kelce, obviously.
Travis Kelce.
That is correct.
All right.
I see Phillips' game. He's all chilling. He's like, let him wear himself out. Travis Kelce, 12,151 yards. He's number 1 on the list.
I'm playing right into his hands. Okay, Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen, number 4 on the list, 10,530.
Okay. Antonio Gates.
Antonio Gates, number 2 on the list, 11,841. All right, what else?
I'm gonna go Charlie Joyner.
Charlie Joyner.
Oh, all right.
Unfortunately, not correct.
I only got one more, and then I'm toast because I don't know anybody else. So I'm gonna have to start, guessing again. And I already used up Priest Holmes. Bambi, Lance Allworth.
Lance Allworth.
That is correct.
All right.
I mean, I didn't get the Bambi reference, but damn, I didn't think he was getting that one. Good job, Lance Allworth. He's 5th on the list, 9,584. You only got one to guess here.
Yeah, Bambi was actually Lance Allworth's nickname, so that's the connection there. Okay, so aside from that, I got Nutton, and I'm going to lose again. So the only name that I would put in here would be Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill.
All right, I got nothing.
You say you got no more? All
I
right,
got no more, baby.
Let's get him.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
All right, Philip, we might be crowning you right now because this one, I was a little surprised Isaac missed this one. He's number 3 on this list. You got one guess at it. Who you got?
Man, I want to take a good guess. Is it Tony Gonzalez?
Oh!
Tony Gonzalez!
Dunking on the field goal.
I was literally talking about him on the air yesterday, and I forgot him in crunch time, baby.
Philip snags it in the end. Great job. Great game indeed. Philip, you are today's winner.
Hopefully that's the only time the Chiefs beat the Chargers this year.
We'll see you there, and we'll see y'all week 1.
No, we'll see you in Sao Paulo, Brazil, week 1.
That's true. Wow. That's true. In Brazil, man. Let's make it a great one, man. Let's make it one to remember, because
Isaac, unfortunately, a tradition on this show. We have to award the loser something. So tonight, you are tonight's loser.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
Dumbass. Dang these. They call me dumbass. Stupid.
Yes, Tony Gonzalez was my Marshawn Lynch tonight.
Great game overall. It's been a great show. Appreciate you guys coming in. Phil, we'll start with you. Tell everyone where they can follow, subscribe, and get all your great content, my friend.
All right. First and foremost, I work with the Chiefs Focus. Look me up at Chiefs Fan 4, the number 4, Life, LYFE, not with the I. That's my X handle, X formerly known as Twitter. Look me up on Facebook, Philip Magruder. Also Magruder, MCGRUDER, PMAC, PMAC. That's my Instagram handle. Besides Chiefs Focus stuff, I also used to work with the organization with the Chiefs as a usher, a ticket taker, but now I have free time on my hand, not only doing the podcasting and writing about the organization, writing about the team, and have my connections on the inside there, but I also am doing disability rights work. Was diagnosed with autism since I was 2, and being a self-advocate, basically just a civil rights activist for folks with disabilities like myself, especially across this country, especially in today's climate. You know, I'm just using my voice not to be afraid on things. Just like, you know, we'll talk our stuff here and there, but at the end of the day, I just like fellowshipping with people outside the Chiefs organization, just to look at how organizations run, because it'd be no different if I was with the Chargers or the Raiders or the Niners or your Dolphins, Jason. But it's just that I love what I do, and that's where you guys can find me. And it was an honor to be on here with all you guys, including you, Isaac, especially the work that you do. What you do is what inspires me to try to get to where you at, especially with the Chiefs, hopefully one day. And, you know, let's see where it all leads to. So thank you guys for having me on.
No, we were honored to have you, Isaac. My daughter's severely autistic, so trust I'm behind your plight for sure. And let's make sure you stay in touch, and we'll definitely see you again. Isaac, my friend, tell us where we can subscribe, follow, and get all of your great content.
Well, first of all, I have a son who's autistic as well, so we all have that in common as well. So that's pretty cool. I'll start off by saying something that I actually wanted to add in before, but we just didn't get a chance. A couple of interesting tidbits that I think are worth noting about the Chargers before I get to social media and all that. The first 3 games that the Chargers played this season are all divisional games, and that's fairly unusual. Obviously, as I said, they start with the Chiefs in that game in Sao Paulo, but then their second game is at Las Vegas on a Monday night, and then they play their home opener against the Broncos. So I have a saying on our shows that, you know, a divisional game is worth 2 games in the standings. So half of their division games are going to be over the first 3 weeks of the season, and you don't see that much in the NFL. Another interesting footnote, and part of it is the fact that they do have to travel to Sao Paulo, Brazil for the opener. This year, the Chargers are going to travel the most miles of any team in the NFL, over 37,000. The team that travels the fewest is the Bengals, and they're at less than 9,000. Which is just about a third more than Los Angeles to Sao Paulo one way for the Chargers to go play their opening game of the season. So that's something that I think is really interesting. They're also going to go to Canton, Ohio during the preseason. So those are a couple of other interesting tidbits that people might want to think about when considering this year's Chargers. You can find me on social media at Isaac Lowenkron. And then starting with the Hall of Fame game on the 31st of July. If you're in Los Angeles, you can catch our pregame shows on the Chargers flagship radio station, Alt 98.7 in Los Angeles. We're on 2 hours before every game, after the game as well. And then for 2 hours after that, we do post-game Chargers talk over on our sister station, AM 570 LA Sports in Los Angeles, when people can call in and tweet in. And we have wonderful callers, and I wouldn't necessarily call them wonderful tweeters, but definitely clever and snarky tweeters who seem to tweet in mostly when the Chargers lose rather than they win. But we accept all perspectives. We even allow Raider fans occasionally on our show if we're in a good mood. So yeah, you can catch us there. You can also listen to all that online as well at am570lasports.com. That's Chargers Talk. It's going to be about an hour after every Chargers game, preseason, regular season, and hopefully deep into the postseason.
I was already thinking as you're talking, like, man, I'm definitely prank calling Isaac this year. No doubt about it.
Get in line. That line is very, very long.
Oh, that's great. Tip, I didn't get a chance to do it prior, but let everyone know where they can follow, subscribe, and get your stuff as well.
Yeah, appreciate it. Again, it's been a blast. It was fun being on with all you guys. Even though I had to be on here with Chiefs and Chargers, had to listen to that. But it's cool. Myself, Tip Major. It's TIPPMAJOR. I'm on all social media platforms. I'm on Instagram, X, Blue Sky, YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. I have Facebook. I'm trying to think of anything else I'm missing, but also you can find my articles that I've written on Football Guys and on OddsChecker with betting analysis and insights, and also on OddsCheckers. I have a TikTok account with OddsCheckers. I do video posts with them twice a week, so check those out as well. And I also work with the sports affiliation as well. Last thing with them is I'm going to be doing a new show starting on Sunday evenings, right around the time of, or at the end of the 4:00 games and right before the Sunday night football game. And it's going to be real quick, fast hits, 15 minutes of fantasy football information, nuggets, and also insight on injuries. Hopefully we'll have an injury expert come on and talk a little bit about that. So look out for that during the season. We're going to actually kick it off in August, but we're going to get everybody ramped up so that way in the season they can get that 15 minutes right before the Sunday night football game. So that's going to be some fun to look out for. It's going to be called Fantasy Nuggets. And yeah, I'm excited about everything that comes up this year. So we'll go out there and help it.
And you'll get to see Tip a little bit more here with the TSS family as well. So once again, we appreciate you. Again, Isaac, Phillips, been a great time tonight. Thank you guys so much. Good luck to your teams this season. From us to you, we appreciate you, and we are out.